Senators and those participating, we have 3 measures dealing with the same general topic, so we'll lay those bills out together, and then we'll take testimony on all of those measures. So the chair lays out Senate Bill 2329. Start with that one. Senator Bettencourt, once you explain 2329, then I'll lay out the House bill, then you can lay out the JR, if that's okay with you. 2329, Senator Bettencourt, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. I am highly indulged by the pleasure of doing 3 bills at the same time. Okay, this was the original bill that was filed. That was going to be enabling legislation for the SJR, which we'll do after Senator Hughes lays out the House bill that came back from the House. We put in a substitute to conform with the process of having a plebiscite that folks can vote on whether they want daylight savings time or they want standard time. And I think it's a great idea to put that measure before the voters. And this bill was the original bill. It was filed well back and earlier in the session. I think the House bill is modeled pretty closely off of it. Maybe almost exactly. That's right. But importantly, I think we need to give a chance for folks to vote on which time they want. And I know Senator Menez, I've been working on this, how many? Years. Okay, so with that, we'll make the layout on the older bill, but the original and the pristine bill that was apparently used as a template for the House first. Thank you.
Yeah. Very similar to your bill, the seminal legislation, the fount.
Great minds think alike.
So we're going to leave that bill pending, and along with it, lay out House Bill 1422. The chair now lays out House Bill 1422, and that is the bill, again, on a similar topic. Comes to us from Representative Metcalf, and I'm the sponsor of that bill. And again, springing forward, falling back, we get it. It's been a source of frustration and angst for people, maybe especially parents. I've been reminded, parents of young children, for a long time. And so House Bill 1422 would authorize us to go on daylight savings time and stay there year-round, which of course gives us the maximum amount of daylight. The U.S. Senate passed the Sunset Protection Act in 2022, which would make daylight savings time permanent in the U.S. for those states who choose to observe daylight savings time year-round. The House did not pass that bill, but we're still hopeful the feds will take some action. Right now, states are authorized to observe standard time, not daylight savings time year-round, without approval from the feds. So this bill moves us toward daylight savings time, more light, more sunshine, year-round. That's what the bill does, and I'll yield for questions.
We're going to do the plebiscite next.
All right, the chair now lays out Senate Joint Resolution 86 and recognizes Senator We're going to leave those 2 bills pending and lay out Senate Joint Resolution 86. Recognize its author, Senator Bettencourt.
And thank you so much, Senator Hughes. That was a good summary of where we're stuck, because we're really kind of stuck in between with Senator Rubio's bill being passed by the Senate, not by the House. So at this point in time, we could not authorize a daylight savings time year-round version because it's not allowed under federal law. However, we have the solution to what ails us here. I already have 4 joint authors of this morning. The SJR would allow Texans to decide whether they would stay on standard time or daylight savings time year-round. This would apply to portions of Texas using Central Time and Mountain Standard Time. If passed, the SJR would require a vote in the next general election. And basically, the layout would be really simple: observing standard time year-round or observing daylight savings time year-round. I think this would be a perfect thing to put on the November ballot. And I know that when both bodies went to get together and do something like we did in the last day of this special session, we passed a homestead exemption bill in both houses in one day. So I'm hoping that lightning will strike twice, and we will give the public a chance to vote on the time that they want.
Thank you, Senator, for that layout. Members, any questions for the author? Brilliant. Well said. Well said.
Do I have a brilliant too? Then we're all 3 brilliant. Senator Parker, would you like? Never mind.
All right.
Well, we've got a hearing, so let's rock and roll.
So at this time, that we're going to open public testimony on all three of these measures. So again, they're all related to daylight savings time, and folks who come up are free to testify for or against 1, 2, or 3 as you see fit. So we'll get through this because the subject matter is the same. It's much more efficient this way than asking the witnesses to come back 2 or 3 times. And so we'll now open public testimony on Senate Bill 2329, on House Bill 1422, and on Senate Joint Resolution 86. And to open, the chair calls the following witnesses: Ed Johnson, Jay Pea, and Martha Habluetzel. So we're looking for Ed Johnson, Jay Pea, Martha Habluetzel. Just come on down, take any seats you like, and we'll happy to hear from you.
No, I've always had a...
All right, welcome to each of you. Again, we'll again start on our left, your right, and start over here. So introduce yourself, give us your testimony.
Ed Johnson, and I'm for all 3 bills, just as long as we don't change the time anymore. I am a type 1 diabetic, and this is actually a very big change for me when this happens. Give you a little medical history. In the early morning hours, your body, your internal clock, kicks off a hormone that releases glucose from your liver that actually stimulates you to wake you up. And your internal clock does this. Your normal bodies actually then produce insulin to counteract the sugars that are released. Unfortunately, I don't have the insulin cells anymore, and I don't have that happen, so I have to take medicine to do this. When this time change happens and my internal clock gets out of balance, I usually end up having what they call low blood sugars. I pass out usually every time we have a time change. My wife has had to call 911 probably at least about 5 or 6 times now to come and revive me to get it, because it really messes up the balance of when I have to take this medicine to counteract the sugars in my body, and it can really mess you up. Diabetics, especially type 1 diabetics, dread the time change because you have to go through this adjustment period every time.
Thanks for your testimony. Welcome, introduce yourself, and go ahead with your testimony.
Thank you. Hello, Honorable Chair and committee members. Thank you for having me here. My name is Jay Pea. I'm the president of a nonprofit called Save Standard Time. We work across the country on bills like this. We work directly with the Society for Research on Biological Rhythms, the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, the American Medical Association, the National Safety Council, and many others who are opposed to the idea of permanent daylight saving time. So we would ask opposition to all 3 bills. We certainly would support permanent standard time. We like the idea of ending the clock change, but we warn that permanent daylight time is worse than the status quo. The reason being for that is that it would cause a permanent misalignment of our clocks from our circadian rhythms. It would force early waking. It would delay the sunrise until 8:30 in the eastern half of Texas and until 9 in the morning in the western half of Texas. I have a visual aid showing how that looks in Houston. It's normally sunlit in January with standard time, but it would be dark with the daylight time. And this is Quanah, Texas. It'd be pitch black at 8 in the morning if this permanent daylight time were put in place. It's been tried before, actually, in the 1970s and the 1940s. Going into it, there was a lot of enthusiasm, but as soon as that winter hit, it was strongly rejected, and Texas and many other states were begging Congress to undo this change. Mexico just recently, just last October, moved to permanent standard time. So if Texas were on permanent daylight, there'd be an hour difference at the border, and that would cause a lot of disruption to business and families. Many other states, Arkansas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, have previously rejected permanent daylight time. Arizona, Hawaii, and as I mentioned, the nation of Mexico are on permanent standard time. And that can end the clock change, but is also best for our health, our safety, our education, and our productivity. So again, the American Medical Association, the American Academy of Neurology, National Safety Council, and many others, even Chuck Norris has written 3 op-eds over the last year against permanent daylight time. So I would ask, please, your opposition to these bills.
Thanks for your testimony. Do you want to ask now or after we get through the panel, Senator? Go ahead, Senator Bettencourt.
Since you studied it and you invoked Chuck Norris, so I have to ask a question. Could a Texas time solution? I believe some of our territories and some of the Pacific have a 30-minute differential. They have a 30-minute differential. I thought there's time zones in the world that
there are time zones in the world that have a 30-minute difference, and some even 45 or 15-minute differences. But in the United States, all of our time zones are offset by even hours from Greenwich, England.
Right now, so using Greenwich Mean Time as a standard, but I just was curious if you all had studied that, and also just from the standpoint of, do you have any problem with the plebiscite of letting people pick a time, even though without federal legislation it would just be data for the legislature to continue?
Well, I just pulled up on my phone what's posted on the website for these 3 bills, and they do not seem to offer the option of permanent standard time from what I've just read on the.
Well, no, if I could correct that, so let me just read what would it say. Hold a statewide referendum that allows the voters to indicate a preference for either observing the first preference as standard time year-round or second preference observing daylight savings time year-round. So it does offer standard time as an option.
And that's all 3 of these bills, or just one of them?
SJR 86.
86. Okay. Well, then my organization would take a neutral stance on that bill in that case.
Well, that's progress. But so check out 30 minutes for Texas time. See what you think.
But under the current federal law, only permanent standard time is permitted.
I'm just more of it. It's more of an academic exercise. I'm just curious to see what those partial hour shifts did. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks for your testimony. Welcome back. Introduce yourself to us. We know you. Give us your testimony.
My name is Martha Habluetzel. It looks like Habluetzel, but it's Habluetzel. I inherited it when I got married. Thank you. I've talked to many of you. I've emailed all of you. It's nice to meet you in person. I met Senator Zaffarini when she was running for a representative at Compton Hall umpteen years, maybe 20-some years, 30 years ago. Back before it was declared unusable. I represent the campaign to opt out of daylight savings time in Texas. I have 22,200 and some likes. I have over 21,000 followers in Texas. Unfortunately, I'm the only one of all these thousands that's here, but I represent them. I represent myself. Y'all are very smart at what you do. The educators, the lawyers, the economic specialists, you're very smart at what you do. And I've been fighting this daylight savings issue since March of 2014, back working with Representative Dan Flynn. It's been a learning process. The first thing I learned, it's not daylight savings time. There's no S. It's daylight saving time, which is almost impossible to say without the S. The second thing I learned is there's a Uniform Time Act. The Uniform Time Act allows states to do spring forward and fall back, have the biannual time changes, or like Arizona, where Mr. Jay, what's your name, P, is from, they do not do daylight savings time except on the Indian reservations. They have permanent standard time. And that must be a relief to not do the biannual time changes. The Uniform Time Act says that if a state wants to do daylight savings time, they will start, which is in March, and will end, which is in November, the same as other states. I'm old. I'm in poorer health than y'all. I may or may not be older than you are, but I'm not in good health. I need you to end time changes. I am against any bill that says we'll have permanent daylight savings time. My 22,000 followers are against daylight savings time. And SJR 86?
Yes, ma'am.
Hang on. She's still testifying. Go ahead.
What is the number?
86.
If it allows for permanent standard time, I would favor that. If it allows for permanent daylight savings time, I'm against it.
Thank you for your testimony. We may have some questions for you, and thanks for being here. Members, any questions for any of the witnesses? Thank you all for being here. Thanks for your testimony.
Thanks again.
No questions?
No, ma'am.
Breaks my heart.
You did such a good job. We don't have any questions. You laid it out very well.
It's very nice to meet you in person.
It's good to meet you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify
feel
on,
better.
for, or against House Bill 1422, Senate Joint Resolution 86, or Senate Bill 2329? Seeing and hearing none, public testimony is closed. All three measures will be left pending at this time.
Chair now brings up as a matter of pending business House Bill 1422.
Okay. Senators, this is the Daylight Savings Time Bill, 1422. This is the one that would put us on daylight savings time and keep us there. We'll still need, this is
Yes,
the House
House
bill.
bill.
Yes, sir. So for the longer days, okay. Okay, so we will,
Okay.
1422 is the one that,
Chair unbrings up a matter of pending.
that's right, that's the one that would, that's right, we would still have to get approval from the feds. It would face on daylight savings time and wouldn't have to change back and forth. Okay. Okay, we'll won't vote on that one tonight. Thank you.
Keep going. That's it, right? Bill will be left pending. These two. Okay.
We still have the SJR. Do y'all want to vote on that? There's we haven't laid it out yet. That's the daylight savings. So the SJR, that's that SJR 86. Well, go ahead, Senator. SJR 86.
Sponsor, whatever he asked me to be of that thing. SJR 86 gives the voters the right to decide whether we go on permanent standard or daylight savings. Puts the question before the voters. Constitutional amendment. Because that's the way it's the most, because we get calls and complaints for both. People who like daylight savings, people who like permanent standard. Let the people decide what they want. Let the people speak.
Senators, everybody okay to vote on that JR tonight?
That's it.
The chair lays out as a matter of pending business, Senate Joint Resolution 86. That's probably true. Representative Bettencourt is the author of Senate Joint Resolution 86. There's a committee substitute, which Senator Bettencourt has previously explained to us. Senator Menendez moves that we adopt the committee substitute. Is there objection? Hearing none, the substitute's adopted. And Senator Menendez moves that Senate Joint Resolution 86, as substituted, be reported favorably to the full Senate with a recommendation to do pass and be printed. Will the clerk call the roll?
Bettencourt, Birdwell, Amantia, Menendez, Middleton, Parker, Perry, Schwartner, Zaffarini, Paxton, Hughes.
Aye. There being 7 ayes and no nays, Senate Joint Resolution 86 will be reported favorably to the full Senate, and that's got to go to the floor because it's a joint resolution. We did. Now, Senators, there's enabling legislation to that JR. It's Senate Bill 2329. In the interest of consistency, do we still want to do that as well?
What's the
2329, Senate Bill 2329. No, this isn't the House bill. This is the Senate bill that he did a committee substitute, and it's supposed to be consistent with the JR. It's the enabling legislation for the JR. Well, and after reading the text of the bill and the excellent witness today, I'm going to try to remember to say it's daylight saving time, not savings time. One S at the beginning, not one at the end. I thought it was savings. I appreciate it, Miss Habluetzel. It was a good testimony. The chair lays out as a matter of pending business Senate Bill 2329 by Senator Bettencourt. Senator Bettencourt has previously presented to us a committee substitute, explained it to us. It's been laid out. Senator Menendez moves that we adopt the substitute to Senate Bill 2329. Is there objection? Hearing none, it's so ordered. Senator Menendez moves that Senate Bill 2329 as substituted be reported favorably to the full Senate with a recommendation to do pass and be printed. Will the clerk call the roll?
Bettencourt, Birdwell, Amantia, Menendez, Middleton, Parker, Perry, Schwartner, Zaffarini, Paxton, Hughes.
Aye. There being 8 ayes and no nays, the bill will be reported favorably to the full Senate. Now, Senator Menendez, do you wish to recommend that one for the local uncontested calendar? Senator Menendez moves it be placed on the local uncontested. Is there objection? Hearing none, it's so ordered.